What's up, everyone? Welcome to this week's episode of the Chrysallis Effect. I am Monique White, your host, and here in the Chrysallis Effect, we are transforming mind, money, and manifestations. Yes, mind, money, and manifestations. I am a nurse attorney, international speaker, author, and transformation strategist, certified professional coach. And today we are going to continue on in our series on letting go. We are talking about letting go that things that don't serve us here in the new year, here in 2022. So today's topic is letting go of fear. Letting go of fear. But before we get too far in and before we dive in, I want to encourage you to like, comment, share, subscribe. Share it out to three people. Share it out to three people that you know will be interested, that you know could be benefited by this podcast. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. So, we're talking about letting go. And one of the things that people struggle with, that we all struggle with, is fear. Fear. That feeling or emotion in response to a perceived or actual threat or danger. It can be an impending sense of doom or a belief that something or someone is a threat to harm you. It can be fear of things, fear of people, fear of not being good enough. How about that? Fear of not being worthy or fear of being alone. I submit to you that when out of control or when fear starts to direct our lives, it does not serve us. It does not serve us. Now, fear can be broken down into rational and irrational. Rational, there is some basis for it. There has been some prior experience or some basis in fact. Irrational, there is no basis for it. There's been no prior experience, no prior information that has come in to lend to its credibility. I'm not really going to touch on either one because fear is fear. Whether it's rational or irrational, fear is fear, right? So I'm just going to be talking about fear broadly. Now, don't get me wrong. Fear can be a very healthy response. It's a normal response to, say, actual danger. It keeps us safe. It's a protective mechanism. It tells you to move out of the way of an oncoming car or not to get too close to the edge of a cliff, right? It's a legitimate response to physical or emotional danger. And that response causes us to make a decision for our good, to protect ourselves, right? The problem arises when that fear, that feeling, that emotion controls us and takes our decision making power away. The problem arises when fear becomes the driving force for our behavior and our actions, and we lose our self control. We become powerless to the emotion. Now, I want to share with you a story. When I was younger, and this is going to illustrate fear and the problems with fear. When I was younger, I grew up in South Jersey. I'm a South Jersey girl. Grew up in a little town in Burlington County. But my mom's family was from Newark, New Jersey, the city. So it was New Year's Eve. We were up there visiting, and my uncle, who owned a fish store downtown, wanted to run to the store to take care of some things. So, of course, me and my cousins, we wanted to be out. We wanted to get out the house. And so we all piled in and we went with him. And while he was in the store taking care of business, we took off down the street. Now, in downtown Newark at New Year's Eve, of course, the parties are going on. The bars are open. People are out in the street. And here I am, a little South Jersey girl walking with her cousins. I must have been, I want to say I was about 10 or 11. So I was feeling myself. I was being a grown up, right? So we're walking down the street, and as we approached a bar whose patrons had spilled out onto the street, a drunk pulled a knife on me. Pulled a knife on me. And can I tell you, I froze. I froze. I did not know what to do. I just stared at him. And he stared at me for a moment, and then he started laughing. He was, there's these women hanging off his arm. They pulled him away. But I'd say that to tell you that that's what fear does to you. It prevents you from moving. You become immobile. This type of paralysis sets in, and you remain stuck. And that can translate in a fear of the unknown in a business sense. So you don't go for that promotion, you don't apply. Fear of not knowing whether you're good enough or you have what it takes. It keeps you stuck. Well, going on in the story, after we recovered ourselves, because the boy cousins were in front of us, it was me and my other female cousins in the back, so they didn't see what went on. So as we caught up to them and we're relaying the story, I realized that the knife had actually nicked my arm. It nicked my arm. I didn't feel it. I didn't even realize it till later. Another consequence of fear. It desensitizes us. Harm is being done to us without even realizing it. Now, you might be saying, well, if you're paralyzed, then of course you lost sensation. No, they're not the same. They're actually not the same. You can be paralyzed and still have sensation. In nursing, I work in trauma and critical care ICU. So frequently, well, I shouldn't say frequently, but sometimes we would have to paralyze patients because in order to aerate them, in order for them to get the full benefit of the ventilator. Ventilators are not comfortable. So we'd have to paralyze them. When you paralyze someone, we always have to make sure that we also sedate them. The paralyzing and sedation comes together, not one. Yeah. So you can't paralyze the patient without sedating them. So paralyzing somebody, having paralysis does not mean that you lose sensation, that you are unaware. So fear does both. It paralyzes you and it desensitizes you. It prevents you from moving forward out of that place while it does you harm. And I'm talking about fear that has now gone from a protective sense to where we have our decision-making power, to fear where it is now driving our decisions. Now, you may say, okay, so what's the harm, Monique? What's the harm? Well, let me give you some examples. The harm of staying in a toxic relationship, not going after that dream job or that promotion, like I mentioned earlier, missing out on opportunities, too fearful to go through those doors that are now open to you, not living out the purpose and design that God has for you. The harm of not opening up your mouth and giving your testimony for fear of what others may think or say. So now that another who may be helped or delivered by that testimony aren't. Harm. Think about what you might have accomplished if you had not let fear get in the way of something that you desired. Did it serve you? No, it held you back. And when I think back on my life, all the times, all the things that I could have done, but didn't out of fear, I get mad at myself. I'll be honest, I get mad at myself because you pray for God to prosper you. Yeah, you go and you take all these steps to better yourself, but when the opportunities are presented to you, you're too fearful to step into them. I don't want to live a life of regrets. And I submit to you that God doesn't want you to live a life of regrets. Timothy 1:7 says, "For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and self-control." Power, love, and self-control. When fear is in the driver's seat, we've given our power away to the fear and we lose self-control. You know, the Bible discusses fear and anxiety and its numerous effects multiple times, many times actually. But most importantly, it tells us what to do. It tells us what to do. Psalms 34:41 says, "I sought the Lord and he answered me and delivered me from my fears." I sought the Lord. The fear of man lays a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord is safe. Trust in the Lord. And one of my favorites, Philippians 4:6. "Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God." Everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be known to God. Worship breaks every chain. And it also tells us the effects of fear out of control, the effects of letting fear control our lives. Proverbs 12:25 says, "Anxiety in a man's heart weighs him down." It weighs you down. It weakens you. Isaiah 41:10 says, "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you in my righteous right hand." We have It takes your power away. It weakens you. Anxiety, stress, weakness, helplessness, all things that arise out of fear, panic attacks even, out of fear that has now taken control. All things that are not of the Lord, all things that God has told us that he has not given to us. He has given us the spirit of power, love, and self-control. It doesn't serve you. So, if that be the case, how do you let it go? How do you let it go? Well, one step at a time. I've said previously, and I've said on multiple platforms, one step at a time. And one small step, or many small steps, excuse me, can exceed one large step. Step out of your comfort zone. Start a little. If you are afraid of heights, start by just on a little step stool. Start doing the thing that you're afraid of little by little. No one said take a big gigantic jump. Excuse me. I'm not talking about going out and bungee jumping. Not at all. Next, therapy. Therapy. Everyone needs a good therapist at some time. Yeah, I really, especially in my culture, in the African American culture, somehow, some way, it got accepted that therapy was a bad thing. No, therapy is a good thing. It takes a strong person to seek therapy, to say, I need help. Just to have someone to talk to. So I'm an advocate for therapy. I am an advocate for mental health. Then examine the basis. Another tip or strategy. Examine the basis of the fear. Is there some evidence supporting it? Was there some past experience? Or is there evidence to the contrary? Now, if there's evidence to the contrary, every time that fear arises, remind yourself, repeat back to yourself the evidence that it is not true. You know, my daughter hates roller coasters. She doesn't like heights at all. But mind you, I took her, we went to, I want to say water country in Williamsburg. And she loves the water. She loves the ocean. And there was one coaster, anybody that's ever been there, there's one slide that at the entrance, it looks like it's a big raft and it flies all the way up. It's over the walkway. And you actually think that you're going to fly out of it. We got all the way to the top because you know you got to go up all those stairs. She's fine with that. She did not want to get in it. She wanted to back out, back out. Long story short, the lady, my dad, we talked her into it. She did it. She loved it. She now will go on the highest water slide. Water slide she loves, but she cannot stand, and she won't get on even a baby roller coaster. Now, water slide, not strapped in. You're just sitting in a big inflatable raft. Some of them, like she went on one of them. She just stood on a little platform. The platform went away. She went down. Loved it. Roller coaster, you're in a car or on a seat. You're buckled in. Sometimes you even have the neck restraint on top. She won't do it. Excuse me. I had a breakthrough today and I was crying. We'll talk about that later. And so she does one and she doesn't do the other. What is the basis or the evidence for one? Now, the evidence of the slide, she got in it, nothing bad happened. So she'll get in it time and time again. Now, the roller coaster, nothing really bad happened with that. Although she was on one where she was in the dark and neither one of us was expecting it. The bottom dropped out and it fell down. Of course, it was part of the ride. She didn't like that. So examine the basis of the fear is what I'm getting at. Examine the basis of the fear. If there's evidence to the contrary, repeat to yourself that this can't be true because here's the evidence to the contrary. Next, get an accountability partner, a bestie, or a coach like me. Coaching is not counseling or therapy. Let me put that out there. Don't seek a coach thinking you're going to get counseling or therapy. They're not licensed to do that. But coaching is a collaborative support system to help you overcome and deal with the fear. You were not created to worry. You were not created to fear. You were not created to be helpless. stressed out, and feel weak. But you were given the spirit of power, love, and self control. Bottom line is this: fear in the driver's seat does not serve you. This is within your control to change. You have the power to overcome it and turn it around. And the great thing about it is, you're not alone. The Lord said, the Bible said, I am, you're not alone. And you're not without a guidebook to tell you how to deal with these things. As I said, you are not without options and strategies. And I want to say to you, if you want to book a connection call, you can always do that. Um, I'm going to scroll that at the bottom of the screen there. But fear in the driver's seat does not serve you. Let go of the fear, step out of your comfort zone, step into the promises and all that God has for you. Grab hold of every opportunity that comes your way in 2022. Let go of fear. I am Monique White, your host of Triumph Services. As always, if you want to connect with me, you can do so via my website at www.triumphsvcs.com, on all my social media channels at Triumph SVCS. And of course, if you want to book a connection call, you may do so by the link that is scrolling along the bottom of the screen or within the comments underneath the podcast. Thank you so much. Have a great and awesome week. And I want to leave you with this: Philippians 4:6-7, another one of my favorites. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God, and the peace of God that surpasses all understanding will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Be blessed.